Well, hello, welcome to my channel called Consistent Preterism. My name is Jason DaCosta, and thank you for stopping by today. I am not a pastor, I'm not an apostle, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a teacher. Maybe I am a teacher. I probably won't ever author any more books, to be honest. I'm just a regular guy who enjoys regular things such as sports, eating, traveling, dogs, and watching large amounts of secular television. Those are my hobbies. I'm loved by many and hated by some, or maybe it's actually the other way around. I'm not really sure anymore, to be honest, but my channel seeks to come to clarity and truth in a book that's been misunderstood by humanity for hundreds of years, and that book is the Bible. I began seeking truth about 7.5 years ago when I had an encounter that rocked my then atheist world to the core. That encounter sort of propelled me into Christianity because it seemed like the normal and most common thing to do, coupled with the fact that my family, for the most part, are Christian in their belief. So it just seemed like the right thing to do to dive into the Bible. And I became somewhat infatuated with it because I wanted to learn so badly about what it was that took place that day that I desperately wanted to insert myself into that story any way that I could. And so that was my initial move when this had happened. That experience, caused me to dive right in. So I began as a dispensational futurist in my theology, that wacky view where nothing took place when it was literally at hand and everything is delayed 2,000 years until the Lord comes and kills everybody. That view, I was there for about 6 to 8 months, was a member of a church locally here, and ended up having to leave that view. From there, I jumped into amillennialism because it seemed a little bit more realistic and a little closer to what the Bible actually said. I joined a Reformed Baptist church. I was a member of that church for about a year. And at the end of that year, I started to see partial preterism. And I was in partial preterism for probably close to 3 weeks. I know, a long time. But I, right off the bat, realized that partial preterism is just half truth. The truth is in full preterism, which I now call inconsistent full preterism. So I stayed in inconsistent full preterism for about 4 years. And I learned a lot in inconsistent full preterism. In fact, I authored 2 books while in inconsistent full preterism. And from there, I began to study the Old Testament and realized that things were not adding up here. I didn't understand the law, number one. When I started to really understand the law and what Moses outlined at the beginning for just the people of Israel, nobody else, he outlined that this law was being entrusted to them and them alone. They were the only ones that had it. And he outlined that it would be a blessing or a curse to them. And it would be a curse to them if they didn't abide and obey with all their heart and all their mind and all their soul. They were to write it on their doorposts and on their gates. They were to bind it in the frontlets between their eyes. It was supposed to be everything to them. They were to speak of it when they woke. They were to speak of it when they lied down, when they walked by the way. So this law was of utmost importance to Yahweh, and he entrusted it to a very exclusive people. So once I understand that, and once I understand that the curse was tied directly to that, like Paul says, as many as are under the works of the law are under the curse, and Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, like he says elsewhere, Christ is the end of the law to those who believe. I started to realize that understanding the law is crucial to understanding the Bible. If you don't understand the law and the exclusivity of it, you're going to be thrust into a universal mindset of the curse, and that just doesn't work. I started to see things, and I would see that Jesus said he only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I would see that Paul said that Jesus was born into the law to redeem those under that law. I saw so many different things that really caused me to stop and consider. And now, coming from full preterism, you look at these things and you notice the pronouns, you notice the time statements, you notice the conclusive statements in the text, and that triggers you to take full notice of these things and recognize them. So I started to realize that full preterism may not be as consistent as it claims. Okay, I realized that Jesus said that the gospel had to go to all nations and then the end would come. That same end that he promised would occur in their lifetime and before that generation passed away. I realized that Paul said the fullness of the nations, or the Gentiles, the ones out in the nations, had to come in before that coming as well. And Paul said in that way, when the fullness of those in the nations came in, all Israel would be saved. So I started to wonder, gee, is Paul telling us that the ones in the nations are actually Israelites? It's very possible, because Jesus said he only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then many other things started to click, and I don't have enough time to get into it on this intro video, but that's what my channel seeks to explain in depth and in detail. I then understood Abraham's seed. That was never intended to be taken spiritually. It was always a designation given exclusively to the people of Israel and nobody further. So I wondered how and where in the story people changed that to now include all people. I saw the term sheep as being only given to Israel in the Old Testament, and the prophets saying that they had such bad shepherds all throughout this story. And then we get to the New Testament last days, where the gospel is going out to seek the sheep. His sheep would hear his voice and come. So I wondered, where did the term sheep change from Israelite to now include pagans? That didn't seem right. And I wondered why Jesus was called the Good Shepherd if all throughout the Old Testament only Israel had the bad shepherds. Wasn't he replacing that? Didn't Paul say he was born into the law for those under the law? And didn't only Israel have that law? So a lot of things started to develop, and I started to piece things together. And the clarity has been overwhelming. I study and share. A lot of people ask me why I still study and share if the Bible doesn't pertain to us, but I do it because the Bible is so botched. I think people crave clarity in the Bible, and I enjoy helping others come to the clarity that I've come to personally on it. I think clarity, wherever there's clarity, there's truth. I don't think that there's any confusion, right? People like to say God isn't the author of confusion. Well, I believe that Yahweh wasn't the author of confusion. Yes, I do believe that, because the Bible makes perfect sense under the paradigm that I'm laying out on my channel. I do warn you that sometimes I do swear, sometimes I get fired up, sometimes I engage trolls that come at me, but I just ask for respect. And the level of respect that I get is in turn what I will always give back. So anyways, I think that's where it'll end. I apologize about the animals in the back. That was a former hobby of mine when I was a child. I have an office here with a bunch of artifacts collected from all over the world where I've traveled and done things, and it just serves as a reminder to me, and I enjoy looking at them. It takes me kind of back in time. So please don't judge me by that. It's just something from my past. But anyways, again, I thank you all for stopping by. I hope that you have a blast on this journey into clarity, and I hope that you will give my audios a fair chance. And by the way, they will be audios. I don't do videos, so you won't get to see this ugly mug ever again. But anyways, thanks a lot. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.